Westplex 107.1. It is BS in the Morning. I am Shelly. She is Brad. Our website is bsinthemorning.show. Shelly, where do we start today?
I don't know, Brad. Where do you want to start today?
Oh, man.
How was your day yesterday?
Oh, it was crazy. All the crazy stuff that happened yesterday with, all the and you're
the
going to
cancellations.
You're going to yell at me, but once again, I think this is much ado about nothing. But what do I know?
They canceled the Cottleville Parade.
Well, they're going to cancel everything. You saw that they've suspended the NBA season.
I thought that they were going to play, just not with spectators.
Nope, that's the college. That's the NCAA. This is
okay.
the NBA, the pros. LeBron James and the Lakers and all those other teams. We don't have a team, but the team's close to us. They've suspended the season. The NCAA playoffs will continue, they haven't even started. I think they officially start the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, and they will be played with no one in the stands except for essential team members and family. Now, think about that for a minute, okay? If they're going to say, the only people that can come to the games are going to be family members, everybody's going to say, hey, Joe Smith, the center, I'm his 14th cousin. You know what I'm saying?
Twice removed,
right. Yeah. Everybody's going to be going like, oh, yeah, I'm related to him. He's family, So, oh man, and then no trips to Europe. Although now there's controversy on that because they've excluded the countries that aren't in the European Union, which I guess is I think is Britain is officially still in. I think they're supposed to be out at the end of this month. So, man, what a crazy deal! And I still say, it's much ado. I won't say about nothing, but it's to the point where it's like, you know what? It's sort of overkill. Just my opinion.
I completely agree.
You do?
Yes.
Well, you haven't lately, because I've been making fun of the whole goofy thing about you can't do this and you can't do that. And I just think it's to the point where if they keep saying it's a pandemic, and I'm going like, okay.
It's not a pandemic.
Well, they've declared it a pandemic, the World Health Organization.
It's the flu.
Well, that's what I say. It's a different strain of the flu. There's always these crazy, strains of the flu that, that unfortunately, and you know what? I get it. You never want to be part of a statistic. You never want to be, there's only 10 people that died last night or that died in traffic accidents yesterday in Missouri. You don't want to be one of those 10, or you don't want to have one of your family members or somebody that you work with as part of that 10. But that's, once again, it's just a crazy, weird statistical calculation. And, you showed me that website yesterday, the guy who owns the radio station in Santa Clarita, who's been in, he was on one of the cruise ships, and he's been in the quarantine in Nebraska for 34 days now.
It's been a while, yeah.
And he keeps coming back. He had the story about how every day the doctor comes in and gives him a Post-it note, a Post-it sticky note with his name on it, and it's got his OP, or NP, which is nasal passage, and his OP, which is, I guess, I don't know, what does OP stand for? Occipital passage or something like that. Essentially, they test his nose, they test his throat, and he's positive in his nose, but he's negative in his throat, so therefore he has to stay. And he's been here for 33 days, and I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, people are going like, well, look, you let that guy out in the public, and he's gone. So you and I went to another event last night. We went to the Greater St. Charles, what was that? Some kind of a beer and wine
Business
deal
After Hours. It's called the Biz Brew.
Yeah, the Biz Brew or something like that. And there were lots of people there, people shaking hands, people eating food,
But they weren't hugging as per... when people are huggers. And if you don't get to have that hug, you kind of feel like the whole event isn't complete.
So you're telling me you didn't do any hugging last night? Is that what you're telling me? Now the truth comes out?
I'm sorry?
They said now the truth comes out?
I didn't do any hugging last night.
No hugging?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've got... To make matters more complicated, I'm going to look at my log here. Hold on a minute. Let me look at something.
I'm sorry, you were mumbling. What'd you say?
I said, let me look at my log a minute. I've got a screwed up log here. This is not right. There's something.
Okay. Well,
Oh, I know. Hold on. I'll fix it right here. Hold on. I'll hit this magical button right there, and then I'll do this. Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, we're back in business now. Okay, I thought, oh my God, here we go again. My log's messed up. But it just didn't sync properly. But now it's synced, and people
is
are
it
going like,
synced? And are you good now?
I'm synced, but I'm never good. But that's a whole nother story. so
Just varying degrees of good.
well, and here, let's talk about the situation with the parades. The parades are all canceled. The Cottleville and all the St. Louis, Irish parades, the St. Patrick's Day parades. One of the NCAA final cities, not the final cities, but one of the cities where when they go through the 64 or whatever it is, the March Madness thing was St. Louis. So that means that all these people who are going to travel into St. Louis, who are going to stay in hotels and go downtown and eat food at our restaurants and go to the Hill and eat, all sorts of Italian food, not coming, And it's like, okay, that's great. And here's the problem that worries me. Not the fact that it's probably going to kill us with our business of selling advertising, but the fact is now you have so many businesses who are going to go into their shell. And they're going to go, oh, things are bad. I've got to cut everything. I've got to stop doing my advertising, and I've stopped doing this and stopped doing that, and I got to figure out how we can use a 1 bar of soap in the restroom for an entire month, and I got to figure out how I can dial back my thermostats so, I won't use as much electricity. And what they should be thinking about is...
And they're thinking, and I have to get more toilet paper. Which I don't understand what that's all about.
Well, the smartest woman in the world sent me the stuff on that yesterday, and her read on it was I read a couple articles she sent and talked about that most of the toilet paper is made, guess where? China. And that's where, because, that's the thing that really bothers me.
So why are they having, everybody buying up? What are they going to put it on eBay?
Well, it's sort of like, and I'll give the example, it's maybe a good example or a bad example. It was like after Obama got elected president, you couldn't find certain calibers of ammunition for 8 years. If you tried to find 22 long rifle, and I know people aren't into guns, don't know anything about that, but 22 long rifle is like what they call a plinking round. It's a small round. It's usually used. It's not typically used for self-defense, or it's mostly target practice, mostly, taking your kids with your little 22 that your grandfather gave you and putting some tin cans on a log somewhere out in the middle of nowhere and shooting the tin cans off a log. I mean, that's what 22 long rifle, and it's cheap. You used to be able to buy a big box of it, 500 rounds for, sometimes you get it for $15-18. Then Obama gets elected. And everybody's, oh my God, he's going to take away the guns. He's going to take away the ammunition. And you couldn't find 22 long rifle. There were stories. I had a friend of mine that worked at Walmart, and he told me the story that there were people that camped out literally in the Walmart because they knew what time the trucks arrived that had the ammunition on it. And as the guy was bringing the cart from the back of the store, up to put it on the shelves in the hunting department, they were literally taking the boxes off the cart and checking out with it, and then they were going to, they were doing what do you call it? You know what I'm talking about. Flea markets. These guys would go to the flea markets and they would sell the ammo. They would buy it for and it was expensive. They'd buy it for $30, $40 a box, and they'd sell it for
sell it for $50.
Oh, sell it for $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 a box because of the fact.
And you think that's the correlation between?
Well, it's like the milk and bread.
The gun,
it's the milk and bread.
Ammunition and toilet paper.
It's the milk and bread thing. People go, oh my God, we got to get, and it's like, why is it that whenever we have the situation that we might have 3 inches of snow, and here it is, it's still officially winter, we might still have some more snow. People are going I got to go to Schnucks. You go to Schnucks, like the day before supposed storms, you can't get on the parking lot at Schnucks because everybody's in there buying stuff, and mainly they're buying, the running joke, milk and bread. It's all gone. It's like, okay, so you couldn't survive.
And toilet paper.
Well, no, but not up until this point. The toilet paper is, it's just like you can't find the hand sanitizer stuff. I use the little you've seen, I keep them in my car and I keep them in my truck for, like, if I have something goes
Yeah, those
wrong.
little wipes.
Yeah, handy wipe kind of things. The little baby wipe things. I keep a pack of those in my car just for the fact that, like, if I have to change a tire or something like that, I can clean my hands, or if I have to check, put a quart of oil in my car or do whatever, I got, those things are to the point where you can't find them. They're all gone, especially the sanitizing ones. Sanitizing ones, forget it. You can't find those. They're nowhere, But anyway, we'll talk about that. And, I guess the thing that bothers me about this is that, what's this going to do to the election? Now, there are some people that are saying that the Democrats are behind all this because of the fact that they're saying, oh, look at Trump. Trump brought coronavirus here. He went over to Europe and he kissed a lot of women over there that had coronavirus, and he came back here and he kissed everybody. You know what I'm saying?
I doubt that that's what's happening.
But there are people that, I'm being a little bit over the top, but there are people that are saying that it's him.
You over the top?
Never. Yes, you got that straight. Okay, we're going to take a break. I got the computer system working right, I believe.
6:19,
There you
everyone.
go. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to play that one right now because of the fact that Shelley made a mistake on the computer, and I'm going to have to stop her.
Thank you for covering up the errors of my ways.
It is BS in the morning. I am Brad. She is Shelley. Did I get that right?
That's close enough.
Oh, boy. Yesterday was a beautiful day, a little bit on the cold side. Sun was out, a nice sunset last night.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's always great when you can enjoy a sunset standing on the tarmac of an airport, right?
It really is. There's actually a very true statement.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So Shelley can't wait till I talk about that, right?
I can't.
And I've got to, hold on a minute. I still have issues here. Where am I? Hold on. The computer is not being cooperative again.
I thought you got it fixed.
But it just messed up.
Okay. Well, so yeah, last night we went to a business after hours.
And
I think it's called Biz and Brews.
And think about that for a minute.
The Greater St. Charles Chamber of Commerce.
Think about that for a minute. Here we were there, and we were in close proximity to all these other people, and nobody said anything. And now, what do you think is going to happen with that? What do you think is going to happen with, like, already the situation with the sporting events and things like that? And you know what? I have to tell you, I think that a matter of fact, when I was up earlier this morning, I was listening to Y98, and they're talking about, we got this big event, opening day, and they're having some pancake breakfast that you can, buy, and you can come down and sit with the DJs and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't mean to be a skeptic, but I don't think there is going to be an opening day.
You don't think so?
No, I think they're going to put the whole Major League Baseball thing on hold.
That could probably happen. Sadness of
it
all.
I think they're just going to put the whole thing on hold. And once again, it's this crazy, weird stuff that, see, this was the thing. And I know your eyes are going to roll in the back of your head, but this is what always bothered me about 9/11. Okay, after and we got attacked first, with the planes, and then Britain got attacked with the bombers who got on the double-decker buses and got on the tube, their subway system, and did horrendous damage, killed many, many, many people, injured, scores more. And the next day, the Brits were back at work. The next day, they were back on the double-decker buses. They were back in the subways, and they were just moving along with their daily lives. Yes, were some of the subways shut down? Yes, they were. Were some of the double-decker buses out of service? Yes, they were. But yet, they just decided, hey, you know what? We just keep moving forward. Us, we ground all the airplanes, and everything comes to a halt, and, and nobody goes to work for like a week, and things just like, and it's like, okay, you dust yourself up. You get punched in the nose, you get off the ground, you dust yourself up, and you move on. That's what sort of bothers me about the whole situation. And it's to the point where I'm looking at my Twitter feed last night, and there's all these sports geeks on there. Oh my God, the March Madness is not going to be the same without crowds, and now there's no NBA, and pretty soon Major League Baseball is probably going to. What are we going to do? I replied to one guy, I said one word. live. To the point where it's like, okay, so sports, like that's going to kill you. You won't be able to. It's like somebody's going to drain the blood out of your body because you don't have sports, and you're just going to fall over and die, or you can't breathe anymore. The air disappears because you can't watch sports on TV. And I have a theory on this. I have a theory that this is exactly what all the sports leagues want.
Why do you think that?
They don't care about fans in the stands. They make their money off of television rights. That's where they're making their money. The money they make.
So what does that have to do with anything?
Because that way they won't have to have they can just run the games and not have anybody in the stands. We don't have to have because already they're talking about like, oh, look at some of the fans. The fans are getting out of control. They're doing things in the stands. They're throwing stuff at the players. They're that kind of stuff. To the point where how much easier would it be to run the NBA league if you didn't have to worry about fans? Hey, you just show up, you get the guys on the court, they play the game, you get the TV, you get the check from ESPN, whoever's buying the rights, hey, you just move on. Who cares about the stands? They spill stuff on the floor, and not only that, they don't have to pay the rent for the arena, or maybe they do. If they have to, but think about that. Think about that. If all of a sudden, we had the deal with the Rams, they left town because we didn't build them a new stadium. Let's say the football, the NFL decides, hey, we're not going to have any fans in the stands. Okay, they could play on a high school field, and because of the fact, who cares? As long as the cameras are there, cameras are there, they don't care. Fans, who cares? Who needs them? You got the cameras. We're going to broadcast it live. We don't need the fans. We can put in sound effects and, we can, CGI, crowds or whatever. Who needs them, right?
Yes.
You agree?
It's actually true. They could green screen the whole thing.
Yeah. Just have
And then they could put. This is really true. They could sit there and put a green screen and wrap it on the inside of the field, around the outside of the field, on the front. You know what I'm talking about,
right?
And they could green. Yes, you do.
Right. Well, next break, either next break or break after, we'll talk about my 9/11 experience with the lady from Carnival Cruise Lines, and I don't know if she still works for them. I see if I can find her number and see if I can still find her. I got a feeling she's probably retired by now. That's been, 19 years, coming up in 19 years now. And the interesting thing she told me what happened with Carnival Cruise Lines after 9/11. Anyway, it's 6:29. Westplex 107.1. I think that is such a much better version of that with both Shawn Mendes. Who is that? Shawn Mendes and T Swift. Don't you think, Shelley?
I think that's a lovely rendition of it.
Everything's lovely to Shelley.
I do. It just makes me feel good.
It's BS in the Morning, 6:40. It is going to be well, you know what? I won't tell you. We'll let the meteorologist, Jennifer
Wojcicki.
And she's coming up in just a minute. Okay, quick story. Back in 2001, not too long after September 11th, probably late September, early October, I got contacted by a lady who was one of the local executives for Carnival Cruise Lines. She was like a vice president. And
when was this?
This was probably about 2 or 3 weeks after the 9/11 attack. So it would have been maybe end of September, beginning of October. And she contacted me and wanted to have lunch with me. She took me to Annie Gunn's in Chesterfield, and that ain't cheap. And specifically to talk to me about running a promotion for Carnival Cruise Lines. And she told me the story that the day after 9/11, they had a conference call with their CEO. I think at the time it was like a father-son operation that ran Carnival. But, this is when, cruises 20 years ago were big. I mean, they're bigger than ever, but they were big 20 years ago. And she said they had a conference call. All the managers and all the vice presidents, which she was one of, were on this conference call. And I can't remember the exact number she said. Let's call it $5,000. He told everybody on the conference call, I have just deposited $5,000 into your checking accounts because they all had direct deposit pay. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to go out, and I want you to go out to buy stuff. I want you to go out to restaurants. I want you to take people out to lunch, take them out to dinner. I want you to go, you ladies, I want to, want you to go get your hair done. You guys, I want you to go buy a new suit and take that $5,000 and spend it. Put it in your local economy.
Back into the local economy.
Exactly. And she was doing it. She was taking me out to lunch, but it was a dual purpose. She was taking me out to lunch. So, she was spending money at Annie Gunn's. And at the same point in time, she was talking to me about doing some promotion with them, which we ultimately did. We did a promotion with them with AAA Travel and Carnival Cruise Lines. And I had at the time, we had another company that I don't know if we were doing business with them at that point or not, a company called 5 Star Travel in O'Fallon. I think they're still there on Veterans Memorial west of Woodlawn. And she called me up one day and said, we have a special deal for your listeners. I go, really? She says, and it wasn't Carnival, it was another cruise line. It might have been NCL or
Norwegian.
Norwegian. I can't remember which the cruise line was. She says, you pay port taxes and the cruise is free. I went, what? And she says, you pay port taxes. At the time it was like, I don't know, it was like $160 a person or something like that for the port taxes. You pay the port taxes. Obviously you have to get on a plane to fly to wherever it's embarking from, Fort Lauderdale or Miami or wherever the different ports were. And the cruise is free. I go, really? And she says, yes. Because here's what's happened. The cruise lines have decided they just want to get people back traveling. They want to get people, back on the boats, and they want to get people, back into what makes our society great. Going to work every day, planning a vacation, maybe taking a cruise, maybe going here, going there, and we just got to prime the pump. And and it was those people that I remember. The people that I've already forgotten about way back when were the gloom and doomers. Oh, my God, things are terrible. Ooh. And it's funny. It's like yesterday, and I don't know if I should mention his name because he may not appreciate what I'm going to say. It's all positive, though. But one of the guys I know who's a financial services guy, who's one of the, the big company here in town, I'm talking about. He works for them. And, he was just in a really good mood yesterday. And I go, well, how's it going? He says, the people that I advised, I told them. I said, when the stock market started going down the toilet, I tell them, buy. And he says, these people are, they're long-termers. Most of my clients are long-termers. They know that, there's ups and downs. And they're not like the real estate market back in 2008, 2009 when everybody was trying to sell their house. Or is that goofy lady, what's that gal's name? It used to be on Oprah all the time. The financial lady, you know what I'm talking about? Susie Orman, okay?
Yeah.
Susie Orman was on TV back in 2008, 2009, 2010, essentially saying, hey, if you're upside down in your house, just walk away from it. Let it get foreclosed on. Just walk away.
Strategic foreclosure.
Well, but once again, it's like, and it drove me nuts for her to say that because guess what that did? That made things worse. The whole idea behind, and the sad part of it is, that's the philosophy that drives me nuts. It's the philosophy of, hey, it's all about me. You know what? If I paid $200,000 for the house 2 years ago and now it's worth $150, I owe $180, just going to walk away from it. I don't really care about my neighbors. Who cares what happens? I don't care about that the bank's going to take a loss on me and, don't care. It's all about me. It's not worth what I paid for it. Going to walk away from it. Drove me crazy. And once again, it's those kind of people that drive me crazy. It's the positive
Light,
people.
it's a short trip, Brad.
What are you doing with your microphone? It sounds like you're like.
I'm here.
No, it sounds like you had like you were talking into a bowl or something like that.
I was talking into a bowl. How did it sound?
Oh, sound like you're talking into a bowl. Anyway, that's my spiel.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Not saying anymore. It is 6:46.
Oh, look, it's 6:46.
Westplex 107.1. John Kay. I like that song. Have you ever seen the video for that, Shelley?
I have not.
It's just him and a gal. Don't know who the lady is, and it's just sort of a simple video. It's well done. I like it.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah, right.
Are you going to
Listen
put it up on your Facebook page?
No, I don't think so. 6:53. It is BS in the Morning. I am S. She is B. Our website is bsinthemorning.show. We broadcast live from the Allen's Tree Service studios. Allen's Tree Service, they're out there in the Wentzville area, right there on 70 between the Wentzville Parkway exit and the Forestel exit. By the way, and you probably know this, and this is sort of inside baseball, but I didn't know there was a Forestel VOR. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, never mind. We'll talk about that next hour then. Okay, that was from some of my experience last night. Anyway, the Allen's Tree Service people, it's that time of the year. You know, the storms have already been through. We've already had the horrendous, nasty tornadoes that hit Tennessee and Nashville. Don't wish that on anybody. That's a terrible situation to have, but a lot of those people had trees that ended up, being destroyed or being ended up in their house or their car because they may not be in the best shape. So what I'm saying is when we get into the spring season, we're still in the winter, but spring where the winds come up and we have the storms, make sure that your trees are in decent shape. Call the Allen's Tree Service people. They'll come out, take a look. Chances are it just could need a little bit of trimming, what they call crowning, or like in my situation, they say, guess what? It's dead, needs to come down. So they will take care of you. They're local. They do good business. They have neat equipment. If you ever watch the video we did for them, they have the Tree Rex, which is this really cool machine that grabs a hold of the trunk, or not the trunk, but one of the limbs, has a built-in chainsaw, chops it off, puts it on the ground. The guys throw it through the chipper, bang, they knock a tree down in record time. It's amazing how quick they can do it. So check it out. AllensTreeService.com. 6:53, BS in the Morning, Brad and Shelley. So we got criticized by the smartest woman in the world.
Yes, we did.
We're not being positive enough.
That's what she said.
And in that break, I've got an issue, and I was sending out an email for tech support on one of the systems we have here at the radio station. And I looked at my email. They canceled the NAB next month.
Did they cancel it?
Yeah, our big conference, 100,000. And here we go again.
I'm so sorry, Brad. I know how you enjoy that so much.
Well, 100,000 people going to Las Vegas, 100,000 people from 165 different countries, 165 different countries, which means that nobody's going to fly, means nobody's going to, those 100,000 people, let's say 50,000 of them would stay at least one night. Probably some of them stay more than one night, but let's just say half of them. 50,000 hotel rooms that won't be booked, 50,000 taxi rides, Uber rides that won't be used. How many meals if they're there for a couple days? 4, 5, 6 meals that won't be had in Las Vegas. I don't know. It's sad, and I think that's one of these things where once again everybody's like, "Oh, we're afraid, we're scared." Come on, buck up, move on down the road. I mean, what would Christopher Columbus say? Oh, the winds are a little bit high out here in the Atlantic.
He would say the Earth was flat.
No, let's go back to Spain. It's getting a little bit crazy out here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, some people are coming from Italy.
Yeah.
With it.
And your point?
There's no point. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how was the rest of your day yesterday?
We'll talk about that next hour. Okay. She's hinting at something.
I am.
She's hinting at something. Okay. So we'll talk about that next hour. It is 6:57. Westplex 107.1, Tones and I, Dance Monkey, and talked about that earlier this week that I heard her on a countdown show over the weekend, and she said that song was about her busking in Australia. Busking where you stand on the street corner, sit in the street corner and play an instrument or whatever. And she said the song should be called Song Monkey because of the fact that that's what the song is really about. People coming up and telling her, do this, do that, sing this, sing that, and treating her like a monkey.
Did she sound like she sounds on this record?
Well, she sounds Australian. That's one thing. But
does the tone of her voice sound like the way she sings? No,
she's got a fairly normal voice. I thought that too. I thought to myself, well, she doesn't sound like a cartoon character when she talks. She sounds like a normal person.
That might be just one of her, one way that she can talk, because she doesn't sound Australian on the on the song.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of people with accents don't sound that way. Although there are a couple of people that
It's true.
Louis Capaldi sounds like we
Only
play his song.
country western stars sound like that.
Well, but not even that much anymore. It's to the point where if you go back and listen to some old country music like George Jones and and people like that, I mean, they sound country. Most of the country music now, the guys don't sound country because a lot of them aren't. It's just like, hey, it's rock and roll. Rock and roll's dead, so let's all go country. I mean, and I'm not making fun of that. I enjoy it, but it's to the point where you and I have talked about this, that there's the whole bro country thing. And the thing that's been very prevalent in radio is the fact that there are very, very, very few country artists, female country artists, who are played on the radio anymore. To the point where it's like most of the radio stations, if you would sit there and, just to monitor them for an hour and, just take a little, sketch pad and put two columns, men, women, as far as the songs, at the end of the hour, you'll probably have the majority of the music on the radio being men and just a handful being women. And part of that is because of the fact that the record executives say that country artists or country listeners or country music people don't like women as much as they like the men because they like all what's gotten to be the bro country stuff. They like all the good-looking country guys.
They don't whine.
Like the Thomas Rhetts and the, and the good...
Again, not a whiner.
Good-looking guys. They don't, imagine if Post Malone was a country artist.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't picture him on a horse. And country boots and tight pants. No.
With all his
tight blue jeans.
Tattoos and stuff
That's
like
not
that.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay. It is 7:09. It is a Thursday morning. This is BS in the Morning. We do appreciate you coming by and listening. The website for us is westplex1071.com. That's the station website. Our own website is bsinthemorning.show. I did something that I haven't done since 1994. I flew in a helicopter last night. Shelley got me this incredible deal. I spent 2 hours flying around last night with the Metro Air Support, which some of you are going, who's that? Used to be that St. Louis County has had their own helicopter operation for a long, long, long time. And I guess about 10, 15 years ago, the St. Louis City put up a helicopter. So what they did was they combined their operations and put in St. Charles County. So out at Spirit of St. Louis Airport, there's a hangar out there with 5 helicopters in it. And I think the whole crew is like about 20, 25 different guys. Some of them are St. Louis City officers. Some of them are St. Louis County officers. And there's 2 of them that are St. Charles County officers. And they run this as a joint venture between St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles County. And I got the chance to fly last night on one of their flights for 2 hours, and it was a blast. Now, what's interesting is when I used to fly, mainly I flew Bell Jet Rangers. And this is sort of like most people won't know the difference between a Jet Ranger and a Hughes 500. But the Jet Rangers were, a bigger machine. You could put 5 people in it, pilot, co-pilot, and 3 people in the back. So the back seat, and, fairly spacious. The only downside to my night last night was the Hughes 500s are really small cabin. And I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm not like small either. I'm like 6'2", and I could not sit up in the back seat because there's a pilot, co-pilot, 2 officers in front, and then I'm in the back on the right side. And I could not sit up straight. Had to, be hunched over the entire time. But it was worth it because it was a blast. And what the amazing thing is that I'm up for 2 hours last night, all the crazy stuff that happened. We went down into the city, and there was a call in North City for an officer in need of aid. Apparently some officers being attacked or something like that. And we were probably only about 2 or 3 minutes away from it, and we, did orbits over it, and they had a description of the guy, and one of the officers who was what they call the observer, there's the pilot and the observer, he saw the guy running, and we saw exactly where he went. And they got on the two-way and radioed the officers down on the ground, and they went and showed up at this guy's door. Now, whether or not they got him, I don't know. Who knows? And then later we saw, and I thought this was really sad. We saw, one of the officers, the observation officer, who was, they call him Steiny. It's his nickname. Steinmetz, I think, was his Officer Steinmetz. He saw this guy doing crazy antics on Grand in North City. So they radioed that into one of the officers on the ground, and they tracked him, and he went to a gas station. The officer went in, pulled right behind him. The guy pulls out. Officer turns on his red lights, his red and blue lights. The guy splits, goes down Grand, gets on Interstate 70, and must have been doing like 100 miles an hour, and they just broke it off. They don't do pursuits anymore unless it's actual, felony or something like that. And the bizarre thing is we're flying along, watching this guy go down I-70 at 100 miles an hour, and 2 cars pass him doing like 120 miles an hour. We're going like, this is crazy. Then, we're out flying around, and then there's some big, and you and I talked about this earlier. I still haven't figured out what there was some big deal last night at the Wally World in Lake St. Louis. There was an armed robbery or a shooting or something like that. And the pharmacy people barricaded themselves into the store, and then they had to evacuate the store, and I'm going like, holy crap, this is all in 2 hours. It was bizarre.
Can you imagine what those men and women go through on a daily basis?
Well, I don't want to make
and that was probably light.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like we're dissing the city, but the one officer told me that their statistics are that at any point in time in the city of St. Louis, I think he said between 1,000 and 1,500 cars, stolen cars, on the streets of St. Louis at any given point in time. 1,000, 1,500 stolen cars. And I'm going,
that doesn't surprise me.
I'm going like, whoa. And I go like driving around. He goes, no, that's total. He says, but there's a good number of those that are on the road driving around. And to the point where, that's one of the problems.
Those are the ones with the expired 2-year tags.
No, not necessarily. They're the ones that have, once again, it's a different culture. You want to drive somewhere, you don't have a car, steal one. The police department I used to work for, we had a car theft problem in my department. And there were probably some of these guys that they caught that stole the cars, and they literally didn't have a ride home, so they just steal a car.
Or they called 911.
No. They didn't dial 911. They would just steal a car and drive it home, and they would find it. Abandoned on the street somewhere. Sometimes right in front of their house. Sometimes they made it easy. They stole a car, drove home, parked the stolen car in front of their house. But anyway, flying around last night, it was incredible. And what an operation.
So you loved, huh?
Oh my God, it's been a while since I've been up. Now, here's the crazy thing. We used to have fun when I used to fly. We used to have guests that would fly with us, just like I flew with these guys last night. And we would talk to them about how they would become disoriented as to where we were. Because when you're driving around in the St. Louis area, and let's say, you drive 270 all the time, and you pick up all these visual cues that, like if you're driving south in 270, when you go by, between Ladue and 40, you look off to your left, and, there's all the hospitals, so you know where you're at. You know what I'm saying? You can pick up your visual cues where you're at.
Yes.
But once you get up in the air, and especially at night, it's really hard to figure out where you are. Now, I'm not bragging, but probably 90% of the time I knew exactly where I was because I used to do this. I did this for 3-4 years. I used to fly around in a helicopter and, look down, you can pick up stuff. Obviously, the landscape's changed since I flew. But what threw me off was when we went out to Lake St. Louis and we, hovered around the Walmart store out there. Actually, we do orbits. We don't hover. We orbit because you don't want to hover because there's a whole reason for that. But anyway, we did orbits around the Walmart out there in Lake St. Louis where they had the problem last night. I wasn't paying attention when we came out of the orbit. We were just going around and around and around and supporting the officers on the ground. And I was looking at my phone because I'd take some pictures. And I didn't realize we'd come out of the orbit. And I lost myself for about 5 minutes. Like, okay, I'm not exactly sure where I'm at. And then all of a sudden, how did I know where I was? Towers. The radio nerd that I am, I saw a couple towers I recognized. Okay, I know where I'm at. So anyway. It was a blast.
It was really funny because I was tracking you on Flight Radar.
Right.
And
you saw where we were hovering,
yes,
we were orbiting that place in the city. Because
I'm actually going to send you the flight track.
Well,
of what you flew last night.
It's funny. after I got done and got on the ground last night, I showed one of the officers, not one of the guys that I was flying with, but one of the officers on the ground who's, was going to do the second shift. They fly in shifts, and he was going to do the other shift when they were going to go up a little bit later. And I showed it to him, and he saw it right away, and he says to the two pilots that I was with, "Hey, what'd you have down in North City?" Because he looked at the map, because he saw, that we were orbiting around this one area. And there was an officer in need of aid. And it was cool. It was cool. The ship that I was in was a MD 500, I think a 500E or something like that. They had, and you were out there with me, they have an old, what the Army guys would call the Loach, which the technical word for it was an LOH, light observation helicopter. And this was an actual Army surplus machine that was donated by the government to St. Louis County. Maybe they bought it, I don't know. And you were there. He showed us the bullet holes in it. Remember? Are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry, I had a little hairball.
He showed us.
But yeah, it was amazing. Like little bitty patches all over it.
There were like
little bitty metal patches
just on one
to cover up the bullet holes.
Yes, just on one side there were like 6 or 7 bullet holes in the thing. And this was an actual ship that had been flown in Vietnam and been, I don't know if it was necessarily shot down. It could have made a forced landing or something like that. But this was, these were bullet holes in the back of this helicopter that they had patched up, and they'd put this ship back in the air. So, but anyway, what a blast. And these guys couldn't have been nicer guys. What's interesting is that, and I told you this story before because I remember Alan Barklage used to tell me this, that if you want to be a helicopter pilot for St. Louis County Police, you don't just show up there as a helicopter pilot and say, I want to be a cop. They won't take you. You have to be an officer, and then you have to apply for the helicopter program, and they train you. They actually train you as a pilot, because Barklage used to always tell me it's much easier to take a police officer and train him as a helicopter pilot than it is to take a helicopter pilot and train him as a police officer. Because you know why?
Why?
And it's interesting. Perspective of your job. If you're a helicopter pilot, then you're a helicopter pilot and everything else is secondary. But if you're a police officer and they train you as a helicopter pilot, you're a police officer first and a helicopter pilot second. Get what I'm saying?
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So.
Well,
anyway.
I'm so glad you had a good time, Brad.
And it was a beautiful night.
It was perfect.
And I got some great pictures. The only problem was I could kick myself because I didn't take my good camera. I was just using my iPhone. And the downside with the iPhone is, at least I've got an older one, once you get in a low light, it doesn't focus real well. And the pictures I took just after we took off were, really nice and sharp. But as soon as it got dark, it got, the pictures not
grainy.
Well, not grainy. They're just not. Well, part of it is I'm shooting through the window in the helicopter, and they have these curved windows, which gives you a little bit more elbow room. So the windows sort of distort the view out the window, so you don't really get a good picture to begin with. And so I asked them at one point in time if I could just take the door off, and they said, "Yeah, fine." So we just dropped the door off.
That's BS.
Yeah, it is. It is BS.
The only reason I know that is because I tracked you.
Yeah. No, but some of the pictures I took, the original ones I took were pretty cool. But I've got a couple cool pictures where they turned on the spotlight. And that was really
That's
cool.
what you sent me last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, did you see that word? It looks like something.
Oh my God, it was so cool.
It looks like something out of Star Wars or something like that.
It does.
Because
it really does.
It's like this giant lightsaber, that looks like it's coming from where I'm. Obviously, the light was right underneath where I was sitting. It was like literally under where I was sitting. That's where the light was, on the right side of the helicopter, and to the point where it just. And last night was sort of hazy too, which made the.
Was it?
Oh yeah. Once we got up, a matter of fact, visibility. They were talking about this, that when we left Spirit of St. Louis Airport last night, visibility for the at least for Spirit was only 3.5 miles. Because it was haze. Once you got about 300, 400, 500 feet off the deck, it was very hazy up there. And at one point in time, when we were heading down in the city, we got up to about 3,000, about 2,500 feet above ground level, and it was you couldn't see but about 2 or 3 miles. It was pretty bad. But then,
really?
yeah,
because I heard them talking about fog, and I'm like, it doesn't seem foggy here.
Well, it was.
But I didn't think about it
Well, once again,
being so high up in the air.
yeah. Once again, the ceiling was not. I mean, it was to the point where it wasn't cloudy. It was just sort of hazy, and it wasn't like flying in fog where you can't see in front of you. I mean, you could still see. You had, like I said, even at the lowest visibility, we had a couple mile visibility. But it's not like, I mean, gosh, I can remember back in my days, when I used to fly, sometimes if it was a clear day, you get, 1,000, 1,500 feet off the ground and you could see 30, 40 miles. I mean, you could see a long distance because you're way up high and you're not, obscured by what's around you. It's like being like on a mountaintop. If you go out to like the Rockies, and if you drive and then you look back to the east, if you come out of Denver, if you're going west on I-70 and you look back to the east, when you're starting to climb the mountains, before you get actually up into the mountains, you can see way, way, way far away if it's a clear day. So it was cool. It was a lot of fun. Quite honestly, I don't know how those guys do it because of the fact that there's and it's like reminded me of my days when I used to fly traffic. You got to watch out for the all the different airports. When we were downtown, we had to watch out for some planes that were landing at the downtown Parks Airport. Then we flew right through the controlled airspace. And you know what though? I felt like an old guy because I said, do you guys need permission to go through the TCA? And one pilot said, "What's the TCA?" They don't use that term anymore, do they?
I don't know.
Terminal control area. That's what we called it. And he called it Class B. So there's different airspace. You know what Class B is?
I do not.
Okay. Different classes. Well, what around airports they have, when you take flight school, ground school, they call it the upside down wedding cake. And how the layers, like in a wedding cake, it stair steps up. So if you can imagine taking a wedding cake and turning it upside down, that's the way the airspace is around an airport like Lambert. So you have an area at the bottom that's controlled up to certain height, and then it goes further out, and then further out, and then further out. So we were like skirting that area. And back in the day, we used to call it the TCA. And essentially the area in the airport was I-70 from Goodfellow city limits all the way out to the Blanchette Bridge, 270 in North County from West Florissant all the way down to Olive, and pretty much all of 170 is within the control zone. Like I said, in the old days, we'd call it the TCA. But apparently they don't use that term anymore because they didn't know what I was talking about. They called it Class B airspace. So that's what happens.
Class Brad.
Yeah, Class B. So it was fun. It was amazing and totally different perspective from and there. And once again, it was amazing that I mean, we saw several cars and this sort of reminds me of my days flying. There were a couple cars on Interstate 70 when we were following this one car, which they thought might have been a stolen car. We were doing 120 indicated airspeed, which means we were moving forward at 120. Now that doesn't necessarily mean ground speed, because if you're flying into a 20 mile an hour headwind, you're really only doing 100 miles an hour ground speed.
At one time you were doing 120.
Right. We were up to 120. Okay. And there were cars that were moving away from us on the Interstate 70. We couldn't keep up with them, which means they were going probably 130, 140 miles an hour. How is that possible?
I was just thinking, how is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, it was crazy. And like I said, the car we were following that this one city police officer tried to stop, and then when the guy took off and he ended the pursuit, the guy was flying along I-70 and two cars passed him.
I know, so were you having the spotlight on the car?
Nope. We were just following them. We were just we were on the south side of I-70 there. We were, going through North City and out through the airport. And and one guy went, the guy that they thought was a stolen car went all the way out, and we lost him somewhere out near the airport. I think he got off on 170, went north and 170. But once again, while we're following him, and he was probably doing 80 or 90 miles an hour in 70, these two cars passed him. I mean, passed him, left him in the dust. And they were just racing down I-70. Now that's happened to me. I mean, it probably happened to you. You're driving along, and you always accuse me of being Mr. Slowpoke, but, I'm driving along. It happened to me last week. I was on I-70 coming back from Columbia, and I had, I was doing about 75, 5 miles over the speed limit, and I had a guy pass me. I'm telling you, he must have been going 130, 140 miles an hour. I mean, just the point where it's like, zoom, right by me like that. You know, it was almost to the point where it almost scares you when that happens because you don't expect when you're driving at 75 miles an hour somebody to go flying by you that quick. You know what I'm saying?
I do. It's well, you probably think of that as me, but
It is Shelley. That was
no,
Shelley.
I do. But it's really funny. So when you were taking off, the road, and I don't know why this is. You will probably know this, but when you were taking off, the top, whatever it's called, what is it called? Propeller.
The rotor.
The rotor.
Yep.
The top rotor was like, going so fast that it was making up. But when I took a picture of it, and the back tail rotor, is that what it's called?
Yep.
That was just sitting there and that was going around. But when I took a picture of it and I looked at it on the video, it looked like you couldn't tell that it was going as fast as it was.
Yeah, because of the frame rate of your camera. That's sometimes if you see that, sometimes if you see pictures taken of a car, and you see if it has like spoke wheels or stuff like that, it'll almost look like
Yes.
the wheels are going backwards, because has to do with the frame rate of the camera and and how many frames per second, all that kind of stuff.
Huh. Well, it was pretty interesting. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lie.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm so glad that you had a good time.
Yeah, today I'm gonna apply to be a county police officer, and then I'm gonna put myself in the program to be a flight officer.
I
right?
could see that.
Yeah, right. 729. Westplex 107.1. Harry Styles, who recently was mugged in England. If that's a claim to fame or not. It's 7:39. It is BS in the Morning. I am Shelley. She is Brad. Our website, which is having some issues right now. We're working on it even as we speak, bsinthemorning.show. If you try to go there, it might give you some issues right now, but hopefully in the next minute or so. We're having some disk space issues. See, our website's so popular, it's running out of disk space.
I believe that.
Seriously. I mean, it is a problem. We're dealing with that right now. So hopefully we'll have that fixed
Our
up.
websites are kind of cool.
Yeah. Did you see? I hate to even talk about this because it's more negative stuff. Tom Hanks.
Well, then don't talk about it.
Well, Tom Hanks and his wife have the coronavirus. Did you see this?
I saw that.
Yeah. Boy, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. And the smartest woman in the world keeps sending me nasty texts that I'm not taking this seriously enough.
I really don't have anything to say because I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the media has hyped this up to where people are starting to get really, really, really scared.
Okay, but think about this. I have a theory on this. I have a theory that all the internet companies are behind it.
All the internet companies?
Oh, yeah. Because what's everybody saying? Hey, we're not going to have our physical event. We're going to have a virtual event. You can.
That could be. You never know.
You don't have to travel anymore. Just get on your computer and we're going to have a webinar, or we're going to have a video conference, or we're going to just get on and have a group chat. We don't need to see each other anymore. We just all can just exist, in the cloud. No?
The smartest woman in the world sent, she was, getting on me about not being aware of that. But then she goes, she's so funny. She says, get better educated. Be the sparkle, not the dust bunny.
That's a great line.
I know it is.
Be the sparkle, not the dust bunny.
Not the dust bunny.
Who lives behind your
so
door,
funny.
right? That the dust bunnies are all behind your door. Isn't that where they all are? Normally, when the door opens and closes, that's how the dust bunnies get there.
I think so. I don't know.
Anyway,
that just cracked me up. But I am so glad that you, back to what we were talking about before we went on break, that you really enjoyed your helicopter ride.
I spent a lot of times in helicopters in my earlier life, and enjoyed it and had a blast with it, and met a bunch of incredibly brave guys. Everybody I flew with was a Vietnam vet, and each and every one of them had. I think everybody I flew with had been shot down at least once in Vietnam, and I'm thinking to myself, You know, you go through your daily problems, and you have this, and somebody cuts you off on the way to work, and you get mad, and right now, at this very moment, there are men and women who are in harm's way. Some of them who, unfortunately, are maybe being shot at sometime today, or some later today, or maybe already have had happened in Afghanistan or stuff like that. And then you sort of think, okay, how bad can my day be when, I can't get that parking space near the door? I have to stand in line 10 minutes for lunch. It's one of those things you sort of think, it's all relative, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. 743. Westplex 107.1, Electric Love. We need some of that this morning. 7:53. Weather this outside. Boy, it's sort of a yucky Thursday morning. Foggy.
Is it really?
Oh, come on. In some areas, it's raining already. Some heavy, or I shouldn't say some heavy rain. Some rain, which may be heavy at times, is heading our way. We're just looking at the radar. And matter of fact, right now, Kansas City is just really getting nailed with some fairly heavy activity, even possibly some thunderstorms as well, too. I'm seeing some really nasty cells there. And at this point in time, that is moving due east. Matter of fact, the majority of the activity right now is from just west of the Kansas City area in like Olathe, coming right along Interstate 70, and will probably be in the Columbia area. Probably in the next, half an hour to 45 minutes. And according to the forecast, should be here in the St. Louis area within about an hour or so from now. Matter of fact, I think the official forecast is calling for rain, at least some heavy rain starting at rain and thunderstorms. Yes, starting at 10 o'clock this morning. And we'll be
So,
with
ladies, if you are going out today, don't be sure to put your hair up like in a nice French twist.
Why is that?
So you don't look like a drowned wet puppy all day.
Now, why should it just be ladies? Can't guys do that as well too?
Yeah, they could put up a man bun.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but your perspective as a woman, what do you think of the guys with the man buns?
Well, it's normally the younger gentlemen, so I just think it's a thing.
Yeah.
If I saw an older gentleman with a man bun, I'd think, "Oh, honey."
Okay, what about
that?
What about the old guys like me? I don't have one, but the old guys like me who have ponytails.
That have the long, they're almost bald, except for this little piece of piece of tail.
I'm talking the guys with the full blown ponytails. The guys who are like in their 50s and 60s with the full blown ponytails.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
You don't like that look?
Rock and roll dude.
You don't think
rock on.
You don't think that's
she lives on today.
You don't think that's a good look?
It's not one of my favorites.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, who am I to say? I look in the mirror and I see this goofy looking stupid guy looking back at me.
You would look so cute with one little ponytail sticking out the bottom.
Yeah, right. I'd look really
Seriously,
cute. Yeah.
Would you do that?
I see. Once again, You
need to get a KSLQ. You need get a big Q tattooed on your arm.
No.
And you need to get one of those long ponytails and trim your beard in a Fu Manchu.
No.
There you go.
I'm a low maintenance guy in so many ways in my life. Okay, and to the point where, to me, the more hair you have, the more work you have to do on it, which to me is not good. And
well, then shave your head into your face.
Well, but then the problem is then you have to do that every day. See, the problem there is that if you shave your head, you have to pretty much keep it shaved every day, because otherwise you look sort of weird because the stubble starts to grow out. And I know for a while, the stubble look was in, to the point where the guys, like you bought the special, razors, the electric razors that made you look like you had a permanent 5 o'clock shadow. You know what I mean? To the point where it looks like
I do. It's the Don Johnson look.
Yeah, you hadn't shaved.
And you don't wear socks.
Right, about 48 hours.
And you wear these linen blazers.
But I see, once again, to me, I see these guys with the really long hair, and I'm thinking to myself, man, how much time do they spend on their hair?
They probably spend, they probably spend a lot more on their hair and spend time on their hair, just like women do.
Well, that's my point. I don't want to be
But
spending
they're not.
time.
It's not thick hair.
But I don't want to be spending time on my hair, I mean, once again, I'm a low maintenance kind of guy. I've talked about this before. I drive an American car because I can get away with changing the oil every 5,000 or 6,000 miles. And if I drove like a Ferrari or something, I saw a video the other day. A guy has a Rolls Royce, okay, and he's like bragging about it. But he essentially, it's one of these funny videos where he goes like, "Hey, I've always wanted to have a Rolls Royce, and now that I have one, what's it cost me?" And he's got all these things at the screen. He's got like a little running tabulation, and his insurance was like, the insurance was like $2,000 a month, and then he talked about an oil change for his Rolls Royce was $800. Okay, I can go to the auto parts store and buy the best filter, like the super duper filter for $15. I can buy, a 5-gallon or 5-quart jug of synthetic oil for about $20, so I can change my own oil for like, $32. I'm thinking, if I had a car that cost me $700, $800, $900 a month, every time you change your oil, I'd get rid of it. And to the point where I had a friend of mine that bought, and I won't mention the brand because I don't want to sound like I'm dissing it, but a friend of mine that bought a German car. And he's always wanted this particular car, and then the first time he had the oil changed, it was $180. And he was like, "How in the world is it?" The filter was like $70, and it was one of these deals where even if he took it to like the instant oil change kind of places, they had to put the factory filter on it, otherwise it would have voided the warranty. So they had to buy the actual manufacturers, and the warranty was that they couldn't use like Pennzoil. They had to use the actual manufacturer's oil. So you had to put the manufacturer's filter.
So you would never go to Valvoline or Instant Oil Change?
No, that's what he did. He took it there, but they told him. They said it's going to be like $180 because we have to put on the factory oil filter. And first
did they have it in stock?
Oh, yeah. They did. And then he told me, he says, "Well, I think I'm getting ripped off." So he went to the auto parts store, and even the auto parts store, the filter was like $65. You can go to Wally World and buy most oil filters for between like $3 and $6. I mean, they're not the best, but if like I said, I usually buy. There's one particular brand that I buy, which is considered to be. And matter of fact, the reason I switched because I saw these guys online cut these oil filters apart, and the one I was using, like, okay, that's junk. And the one they all recommended was the one I'm buying right now, and it's like a premium oil filter, but still, it cost me $12. $12. And it's designed for synthetic oil as well too. So, and you can go to like now synthetics come way down. You can buy the 5-quart. It's funny they don't have the gallon. It's all, most of them are sold by 5 quarts. It's in a big jug, but it's 5 quarts. You can buy synthetic for $18, $19, $20 for a 5-quart jug. And if you buy the the really good stuff like Mobil 1, Mobil 1 used to be like super expensive. You buy like a 5-quart jug of Mobil 1, it's like $35. So even if you did it yourself, with the top of the line synthetic oil and a filter, it's $50. I mean, that's not cheap.
No, it's not. Actually, it's not even cheap to my Lincoln. It's like $80 to change the oil.
Remember when used to they'd have the the oil, instant oil change places first came around, and it was like, hey,
I do. I remember that.
1995, and they'd give you a coupon for $5 off.
Yes.
Not anymore.
No, not at all.
It's gotten
and then they limit it
expensive.
up to like 4 quarts of oil, so the 5th one is always an add-on. But you need it.
Yes. Well, but once again, they figure most cars take 5 quarts. That's why the jugs of oil at the store are 5 quarts, because most cars, it's by the time you put a filter in, maybe 5.5, 4.5, whatever. That's why they make it a 5-quart package. But like you say, the special is for 4 quarts, and the 5th quart is $200.
Yeah. My car's got over 160,000 miles on it, and so I have to get the high mileage oil.
Yeah.
And because you got on my backside about not changing my oil and not believing that I don't
I said,
check my oil.
I said check your oil.
I usually wait for the car to tell me it's you might want to think about changing your oil, and then it's like oil change required. So I did check the oil, and I did put an extra quart in.
See, you were down a quart, right? See what I told
I
you?
don't really know because I was having a hard time really.
Well, you don't want to put in an extra quart if you're not down a quart. That'll hurt the engine too. Too much oil will
It
hurt
looked
it.
like I was out of a quart. So,
Okay.
and I had an observer.
Well, they've got that.
And so,
they've
because I
got-
really didn't know where to check.
They've got that class at St. Charles Community College now, where you can take the class of how
I'm
to.
sorry, please?
Yeah, you can take a class at St. Charles Community College how to read your dipstick.
I know how to read the dipstick, but it was like, really?
802. And they do care. And what he's talking about, there's some chance of some nasty stuff coming in this afternoon, some thunderstorms and things like that around 10 o'clock, actually later this
I
morning.
love a good thunderstorm.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I used to until I owned radio stations. I don't like thunderstorms anymore. And, not only that is the winds and everything like that. And, it's one of these things. I'm not going to, somebody's going to get accusing me of being like the anti-coronavirus thing, but there's the statistics of how many people are hit by lightning every year, and it's surprisingly high number of people who are
It really
hit
is.
and killed by lightning every year.
When I was growing up and I was a single digit, there was a young boy and his daddy that were. I stayed at my Aunt Laura's over on Mo Bottom Road.
Yeah.
And there was a young boy and his daddy that got electrocuted.
Oh, it's nothing to mess with. I mean,
It's really not.
And it's to the point where it does a tremendous amount of damage. Obviously, you don't want to get hit by lightning, but even in your house and things like that, if you don't have like a surge protector on your whole house surge protector, there's stories all the time about people losing every TV in their entire house by a lightning strike that hit one of the power lines near their house and came through the circuits into their house and just blew up everything. So. And unfortunately, a lot of fires, too. Boy, John Schneider could tell you about that. He could tell you about all the nasty things that lightning does. Hey, that's going to do it for us. We are done. I know the news has not been good in the last 24 hours. You know what? We're going to all pull together. We're going to go through this fine, and maybe we'll realize we really don't need those stupid March Madness games, and we really don't need the studio office for the studio audience for Kelly and who is it? Kelly and who's the live? Is it Kelly and?
I don't know. I don't watch TV. But all I'm saying is they just need to put up a green screen and do that canned laughter that they've done for 50 years.
Right.
Nobody would know the difference.
Yeah, and what are they going to do? In the sporting events, they're going to put the green screen up and superimpose the fans. But what are you going to do with like Mark Cuban? When he can't go out in the court and challenge the referees. Did you see that the other day? We'll talk about that tomorrow. How he got nailed again. He got a $500,000 fine, and every time he gets fined by the NBA, he pays the fine, but then he also donates the same amount to a charity.
See, look at him leaving ripples like that.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, I think that's good, but I also think it sort of thumbs its nose in the fact that the NBA, it's like
he did something naughty.
Well, it's sort of like, hey, I'm a rich guy, and you find me $500,000, and you know what? I'll pay $1 million. I'll pay $500,000 to you and $500,000 to a charity. Na 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 na. You know what I mean?
No, I don't take it as that at all.
Okay. Well, you and I had begged to
He takes his comeuppance.
We agreed
and then he
to-
tries to make things right.
Yeah, but he's being a jerk is what he's being. He's getting out. The reason he got fined recently because he got out on the floor and was arguing with the refs. Okay, he's the owner. He's not the coach. He's not one of the players. He's the owner. He shouldn't be out there, in the face of the refs,
Well, you're the owner of the radio stations, and you're out in the face of the community and of our clients every single day.
No, I'm not in the face like Mark Cuban's in the face of them. I'm not like arguing with them and yelling at them.
You sit there and you.
And we're talking about two different things. When he's out there
Well,
in
we are, but
in the refs, he's like yelling and
correlation.
screaming at them, and he's being.
Is he kicking dirt? Remember when I guess was it? I don't know who it was, but the referee would go out or the
Shelley,
What
think about what you just said. This is the NBA.
Never
there's
mind.
not much dirt.
I was thinking of baseball.
No, there's not much dirt on the basketball court that he could go out there and kick dirt at the refs. And even nowadays, it's to the point where.
Please don't record that.
Oh, I think I got it. Reminded me of that. I mean, nothing.
Really, Brad?
Nothing.
Oh, look, it's 8:09.
Nothing escapes
Everyone
me.
have a
I have
really great
prostate
day.
problems that were driving
even though
me
it's going
nuts.
to be a little damp, and just don't look like a wet drowned puppy all day. Have a great day. Peace. Really? That's so precious.
Now
So look, it's 8:09. It's time for the most important man in St. Charles County to step up to the microphone and say,
Hey, people. She says to call Extreme Electrical for your residential, commercial, or industrial needs. Give us a call, 636-925-2988, or on the web at extremeelectricalstl.com.